And a good happy Thursday to everyone. Welcome to the Talking Pools podcast. You are listening to Wayne and Steve, polar opposites. Well, kind of really, because I'm on the East Coast, Steve's on the West Coast. And today, what we're going to be talking about is, well, not today, but we're going to be talking about tomorrow and the future and what things are going to be happening. What's the outlook for the rest of 2024 and into the 2025 season? Steve and I talked about this a little bit before we started the recording, and I want to start off with something that's kind of obviously near and dear to my heart, and that's testing and chemistry. And it's funny, 31 years in the industry, countless trade shows, countless meetings, talking to people. I've always been asked, like, what's the number one question you've ever gotten at a trade show? And probably the number one question is there something that I can use? I can just stick in the water and it'll tell me everything, or similar questions. And my funny comeback answer is it doesn't exist. It's called a magic wand. Because you can't just stick a probe in the water and it will tell you absolutely everything immediately and diagnose and whatnot. It just doesn't happen. And a lot of it has to do with the way things are tested. For example, and pH is the problem. pH is tested differently than any other parameter you might see in water because of the nature of the beast. You use a completely different probe, for example, if you are using probes. So you would have to have two probes or some kind of similar setup. And besides, the cost of something like this would be absolutely astronomical. There are machines actually that will do exactly that. That will, you obviously pour in a sample of water and it'll spit back everything at you, but it's called a gas chromatograph. And they're a few $100,000. And I'm sure your average service tech has the pocket change to go out and buy one, plug it in the USB, charge it up every now and then. But realistically, as far as testing is concerned, and chemistry is chemistry, and it doesn't change. It's chemistry. There's no new pH or new alkalinity or anything like that. It doesn't exist. But what can change is how one tests for it. And I'll be very honest with you. I mean, I left the testing company back in September of 2022, and I have seen zero improvement in the technology for testing. Zero. Nothing has changed. It's all still the same frickin' thing or variations on a thing. And that's a little disappointing because I know that at some point technology is going to catch up with the industry and we might have that magic wand in 20 years or so. But right now, no. Nobody's really doing anything to improve how things are tested. So what happens? We rely on what we know. We rely on what's been proven and what's been quote tested. Quote. And we use the tools that we have that we know, one, we're comfortable with, two, we know are going to give you the right answer, going to give you a reliable answer and a consistent answer. So, technology and the future as far as testing is concerned is kind of flatline. Nothing's happening yet. Maybe down the road, yeah. I'm thinking Star Trek and, Star Wars and things like that. But it's going to take a while. But there is no changes that I can see as far as, say, chemistry and testing are concerned. Steve, how about you? What do you see in your neck of the world?
Every now and then, a technology emerges that changes people's lives. For people who test water, that time is now. Proven analytical chemistry has combined with centrifugal fluidics photometry to create the breakthrough WaterLink Spin Touch. The genius is its reagent disc that simultaneously tests 10 parameters. Reagents are dispensed into specially designed wells, mixing beads are inserted, and the disc is sealed. The unique fluidics disc eliminates user error for precise, repeatable results in just 60 seconds. The Spin Touch can precisely measure more than 16 critical chemistries. Regardless of the application, the Spin Touch is perfect for all pool professionals, making your job simpler and more reliable. With Data-Made Web, the WaterLink Spin Touch seamlessly provides the time, date, and test results for remote monitoring anywhere in the world. Hotel chains to service companies can now have eyes on pool water anywhere, anytime. The game-changing Waterlink Spin Touch with centrifugal fluidics reagent discs. You'll never test any other way.
So I just went to one of my, and hello everybody. I just went to one of my commercial clients and they pulled out like a Spin Touch or something, you know, which is like a couple $1,000s, but like no one really even knew how to use it. So there are Spin Touches. I do know that there's service guys out there that do use the Spin Touch. I like to use the little blue test kits, the one that you taught me to use. But I'm a firm believer if you do that one correctly, and we've talked about this before, but I do not like the drop method for chlorine anymore. Like I don't use the color metric anymore. Like I'm not putting in 5 drops of the R's, you know, the 1 and then the 2, and then I'm shaking it and looking at it. Because again, it could look like 1 to me, it could look like 7 to you. I want, you know, the powder and the drops where it's going from pink to clear, where you're getting that titration test. Because then, you know, 4 drops is going to tell me if it's at 0.5 that it's at 2 parts per million, or if it's at 0.2, you know, it's at 0.8. So it's going up 0.2 or 0.5 every one. But now I know, boom, it's at 7 parts per million. So I only need to add 3 parts per million to shock it. And that one's a one where in class, like it's kind of like people's eyes get really wide.
Yeah, the
like,
ooh-ah moment.
God, like you could actually figure out where the chlorine is at. And once you start doing it, you know, I've put so many people onto it just because it's so accurate. And like now, if you get 15 people to do that same test, you're going to be within 0.5 or 1 of each other, you know, if you do it properly, which is good enough for me, you know.
And what always drove me crazy is that test, that methodology has been out since 1988. Okay.
I got in the pool industry in the early 2000s, and I didn't know about it until 2000 and, you know, 2012.
And the test kit companies, the 2 major ones, Lamont and the other one, the blue kit, I know that they came out with their version of that test in 1993, you know, and here it is, you know, over 30 years later, I still get I didn't know you could do this. I didn't know that existed. And you just want to kind of shake your head and go, you know, no, it's only been around for that long. Of course it's been available. Why haven't you done your homework to find out what's going on, you know, and especially if you're a CPO, you talk about it in the class, you know, and it's like it's right there, right in your face, and it's a whole 3 or 4 pages devoted to nothing but that.
So I think with Wayne, with that too, is like the next test, the pH test. So many people just use the first one, the R004. If we're talking about the blue test kits, right? They just put it in there, 5 drops, they shake it up, and they say, "Oh, pH looks like it's high," and they write in 8. In the book or 8 in their test. And it really, really pisses me off with my guys, because I'm like, how high was it? I'm like, did you use the acid demand test? You know, are you using it's the one right behind it, you know, and basically there's a, you know, if you go to page 57 in the book, it shows you a table, and it says, you know, you do the 5 drops and you shake it, and now it's high. So you got that nice pink color. It's not purple, but it's a deep pink, right? So you know it's over 8. Now what you do is you take that same sample and you just open it up and you put in the R006 drop-wise. And every drop, basically, it's going to start to come down the color wheel, and you take, you know, 4 drops, it says, to put it between 7.4 and 7.6. You look on the table, 4 drops in this 20,000 gallon pool, put in 1.5 pints. You know, 1.2 liters, whatever it may be, to put it in, and that will bring it down. And that's what we use now for our muriatic acid. But again, not many people even know that it's out there, and they have this whole test kit, and they don't even know that and you could use the calculation, and you could go into the CPO book and you could say, okay, you use the 0.2 and the 6 ounces, and then you divide and multiply across, and it will tell you in ounces how much to put in. But again, if you have a book and you have a dropper and it tells you, and it usually only takes between 1 and 4 drops, you know, like these tools out there, they're made to go back to it. I don't think that necessarily, would I love to have something that was like a TDS wand that I could put in and it would do, they do have ones that'll do, you know, TDS, and they had one that got, I guess it was NSF certified, and I don't know if it was DPD certified, but it was one of the companies that had the test strips, and it went into the thing, and then it gave you a digital readout, and it did get
that company is called ITS.
Yes.
ITS, Industrial Test Systems. They're out of the Carolinas.
Right. My problem with that is in their first couple ones, they're just, my chlorine is always over 5 parts per million. So if it was over 5 parts per million, it would just say high. And I'm like, how high are you?
High.
You know what I mean? Like, are we at 10? Are we at 20? Are we at 50? Right. Like, where are we, you know? Yeah. And then they did come out with one that had like a longer range, like a higher range. But at that point, I had already lost interest in it. They did give me, I did go to them at the beginning and I was like, hey, I really love your product. I saw them on a show and I was like, I really want to try it out. And they let me try it out. And like after a few days, I was like, guys, this is too much stuff. It's too much shit to do in the backyard. Like I'm coming with a strip in the backyard and then I'm putting it in a thing. And that's the way I feel about the Spin Touch. Like if you have a brick and mortar store and you have a Spin Touch station, perfect. Yep. Great. You know what I mean? Yep. Like, do I want my guys out in the field messing around with $2,000, you know, $2,500 Spin Touches? I don't. You know, in that aspect.
Although there are portable versions of it. But
no,
still,
there are. Yeah, of course. But again, like I just got my guys Primate pool tools. Primate, you know, I bought them all for Christmas. I bought them nice carbon poles, right? One's already broken. You know, I buy these vacuums for them, and we don't buy like the Riptide or the Hammerhead. And guys, I love your product, and it works really well in the areas where like you have a pool and it's got a million leaves in it and whatever. But for like your regular weekly service client, like it's really hard to use that because now you're rolling it into the backyard, you're putting it in the pool, and like the propeller is like a marine grade propeller, so it's like, and you know the stuff goes all over. So like half the time I'm blowing leaves like into the air, you know, not the air, but it's just
became its own water feature.
Yeah, it does turn into a water feature, you know. So it's just it's kind of crazy as far as that goes.
So what do you see for your area of knowledge and expertise? What do you see down the road for the rest of the year and next year?
So I think that basically there's just going to be a crazy amount of growth in the next couple of years. I see that, like, I follow the Fed with their rates and stuff, and I know that like maybe we already might be in a recession, and like that's the game that they play, right? Like you don't know that you're in a recession until a few years later. You're like, the recession started 2 years ago, you know? But the one thing that I found is that even in bad times, people still use their, you know, and people still want pools built. Like I think that people will say in times of struggle, like, hey, we're not going to go on those really expensive vacations, you know, 2 times a year anymore, but we're going to, you know, invest that money from 2 vacations into a swimming pool. And, well, probably not 2, probably like 4 or 5, but, you know, and you drop that into a backyard pool. So I do see a ton of growth over the next year. I don't see anything slowing down. I just was talking to you about this off air. I love my residential service business, but because the margins are really slim, that's why we're really picky about who we're taking, and we're making sure that we're making enough money on it. Sure. So again, like I'm looking for like a certain type of client. I think that the high end growth for me and my company is going to be a little bit better in the next couple of years, because we're going to be picking off like we're going to be bringing in, you know, bigger clients and not better clients, you know, like more revenue. And that's like through commercial clients and, you know, consulting and different things like that. But my residential service business, it just won't stop. And again, you just have to pick up the phone and you just have to do what you say you're going to do.
That's right.
Is really what it comes down to. Because like sometimes you miss these phone calls and it could be someone that like wasn't a client, that wasn't somebody that you really wanted anyway. But again, usually I'll vet them over the phone, and like, again, I don't have to go out to quote clients. I will have them send me a picture of the deep end of the pool and of the pool itself and give me their address. And then I go to Google Earth, and there's a 2D thing, like a tool you can look down as like a helicopter. And then you just press on it. You like long press on it on your phone, and it says measure underneath. And then you can measure the pool, the length and the width. And then as long, you know, the shallow end's obviously going to be 3.5 feet. The deep end is going to be 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, whatever it is. And then boom, you have a round that this pools between 25 and 30,000 gallons. Because you might have somebody telling you like, oh, it's not that big, you know, and then they're saying it's 10 or 15,000 gallons, but now you just misquoted it by $20 a visit.
Right.
You know, like that's
money.
a big deal. I also think that like other sectors are going to be doing pretty well, like landscaping and different things like that, because there's just a lot of changes going. There's a lot of changes going on in California with the laws. So even though we had like Title 10, Title 20, 22, and 24, which basically dealt with the single speed motors. So we're supposed to have been doing single speed motors since like 2010 or 2011. I know of like at least 4 or 5 places that I can go and get a single speed motor here that like anytime I go there. And it's usually I'll get it for like a waterfall that I need, a waterfall pump or a jet pump. And that's really what these places are for. But like that's not what they're doing. They're obviously, you know. So in 2025, they're saying in California, like basically you can't sell any single speed motors anymore at all. So all of our distribution now, you really can't find single speed motors. So I'm antsy to see what's going to happen in 2025 because that will change the market in a sense of there will be no more, I can change this seal plate or I can change this pump seal for you and fix your motor. For X amount of hundreds of dollars. This is going to be like, hey, now you owe me multiple thousands of dollars for these variable speed pumps. They do have.
It's funny. I'm sorry. You mentioned a word that kind of rang big bells for me. Distribution. Okay. To me, I think that's going to be one of the biggest changes we see the rest of the year and the beginning of next year. Just to kind of go completely off topic, is when I started in the industry, we sold primarily through almost 85% through distribution. And back then there were only about 80-ish distributors across the country. And I'm excluding international and Canada and Mexico, but about 80. When I left, and part of what I did there was I was what was called the distributor liaison. So all the distributor stuff went through me out to distributors. There were 383 distributor locations across the country. 308 from 80 to 383. Yeah, okay. Attribute some of that to growth, natural growth over 3 decades. Buyouts, merging. I remember back in the old days. This is pre-you, Steve. BLN, Biolab Network, used to be 4 distinct entities across the country. When they merged with SCP, I mean, it was a horror story for almost a full year, trying to get everything straight and who's this now and where is this moving to and whatnot. But you still see it. And you still see distribution changing, being bought out. Distributor A is buying B. B is now A, and then A buys another. You still see it. And although there are absolute wonderful and definite benefits to distribution, can also be a real detriment sometimes. And a lot of it has to do with, I think, and something we've talked about is supply chains and product availability, pricing, things like that. I mean, is a multi-branch distributor better than an independent distributor? That's going to be a geographical question, I think, more than anything, because I know of a lot of independent distributors, say in Florida, who battle with the gorilla in the room distributors, and they've been doing that for a long, long time. What are they doing that is making them still be successful in a market that's super saturated with all these super big distributors that can supposedly supply everything? I just see the independent distributor gaining a little bit of ground over the next year, and being a little bit of a more of an.
I hope so, because the way that it's going now, we're going to have like SCP service department, and I mean, Leslie's already has their own service department. They already do service. Like SCP's not doing service. Like I said, I truly believe that in 5-10 years we're going to see Pentair service department. Where they're going to try and pick off they're not going to be looking. They're also going to have their reps for their product, but they're going to be like, hey, this guy does really good business. Like, how about you stop worrying about the admin part of it. And this is something that I struggle with all the time. And I feel really bad for Jen, because like what she's taken on in our company, I'm the CEO, she's the CFO. And as we grow, what it comes down to is she's got a lot of work, you know what I mean, to do as far as admin stuff goes, way more than like with me making my own schedule. And, I can be like pick and choose when I want to work or whatever. those 100 bills they need to get out every 30 days, right? And like they're supposed to be out on the first. So it's kind of like a shitty sales job that you have where like no matter how well you do that month, like it just starts over the next month. You know, like you won the Ferrari this month, you know, like brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars and then boom, you start at zero again. So it's just, you know, it's tough in that aspect because I know there's a lot of guys out there, and I'm lucky because I met her and she changed my life, and she literally like took my business from being in 2015 where I was like running a good business but was way overworked and underpaid, and like, you know, I just was really bad at the admin stuff. And now we're good with it, but it's still hard to get out past behind the 8 ball. So like I think that again, the relationships that you build with other people, and whether it be with distribution, and you know, to tie it back in with what you were saying, as an independent distributor, you need to really make solid relationships. Like people are creatures of habit. So if you start to like, I have some, and I'm going to call out Fluidra on this one. Back when Fluidra was Jandy, they had some like old time dudes that were there that I like taught, and I taught them back in like 2008. And I'm still really good friends with them now. One of them still works for them. One of them doesn't. A third one actually is like at the executive level at one of their competitors. But it's just like I had like these were the guys that like we actually went out to lunch. They would show up with a cleaner. They would like, what's going on? Like, I'm not happy with what's going on. And then they stepped in and like they totally fixed it for me. But now it's to the point where like I don't feel like the relationships that I had with those companies, I just don't feel like the reciprocation is there anymore. And now it's a very business relationship. Like they've gotten rid of a couple of those guys and now they have some new guys. And not that the new guys aren't great. Like I love all the reps, and all the reps are super helpful, but like these guys got a lot of work. So like when I call you and you don't get back to me for a week and a half, like that's not how they want you doing business. You know what I mean? So I've kind of not moved on, but like I've just like opened up my reach of, you know, okay, like if I can't get help from them, I'm going to get help from whoever is going to help me. You know, and again, like I teach classes at some of the distributors. I partner with some of the distributors, and some of the distributors actually like are really, really, really good to me. And then some of them are kind of just like just transactional, you know, and some of them their pricing is just so outrageous that like I don't even want to shop there anymore. Like there's some independent distributors in New Jersey where like I have a couple clients there. They go there because it's close, but like I've told them like, hey, we're basically playing like almost retail prices here for chlorine and muriatic acid. And I've asked them, I've said like, hey, like I can go 15 miles west to so-and-so distributor and get it there. And they're like, okay, then go. You know, like they're not like, oh, we're going to match your price, or like, you know what I mean? Like they don't really, so it's kind of wild. But again, it's all about the relationships that you build. And like, if you have a good relationship with someone, like they're going to do this, they're going to do, you know, as long as you do good business and you make a good relationship, everything should be fine. Like one of my distributors, like one of the kids actually said to Jen, he was like, you know, he's like, I actually I wasn't really sure about Steve at the beginning when I met him because I was by myself. And I was the guy that like, if I came in and like you messed a bunch of stuff up, I was like, what's going on and what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like I'm the client now, you know, like I'm the one coming in saying like, why didn't this get done? Or why did we order the wrong stuff? Like it's been weeks. Like why hasn't anybody even contacted me? You know, so I was pretty strict on that in a sense. And then, you know, when Jen came in, like she kind of helped out with some of that stuff and they were like, oh my God, like, you know, and Jen says to me too, like, also it's, you know, you need to make sure that like, I don't know, sometimes I'm not like snippy with my employees, but like sometimes they'll ask me something and I'll be like, hey, like you should know that, or, you know, something like that. So they've actually had to have a meeting with them. And I was like, if you have something, like, please call me, like, don't call Jen, you know, but like they like Jen because Jen is super helpful and she's, you know what I mean? Like not annoyed, but like, I expect a lot from
her. She's prettier than you, Steve. She's prettier than you.
Yes. Probably also a bit nicer than me too. But like, I expect a lot from these guys and they're getting paid a lot of money at these stops and stuff. So like some of the stuff, it's like really, you know, inexcusable that they're doing, like not putting in your before and after picture and your time in and out, and, you know, not putting the stuff that we're getting paid for and we're leaving money on the table, you know, different things like that.
So again, I think the face of distribution is not only going to change, but going to have to change to make, again, the relationships that you need to build, make it a little bit, I won't say easier.
Kind of a bubble though, Wayne, and I don't mean to cut you off, but do you think we're in some, like, does this bubble pop? Like, does the price of chlorine ever go down, dude? Because, like,
Yeah, true.
No, and I, because it's not going to be a cool looking future if the next 4 months for the next 3 years, Hasa keeps 7% increasing us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, like, I don't mind Hasa. Like, they threw a great party. I went to their party, had a great time. Met a bunch of great contacts there and stuff. And I love some of the people that work there. But like, why are they the only game in town? Like, let's talk about and I know Rudy had a couple guys on from Hasa, and we've had that discussion already. But like, why? Like, why are they the only ones that have these huge? Because nobody. I guess a lot of people know, but like, they're literally using salt generators to make our chlorine. So like, does nobody else have this ability to do this? Like, why are they the only ones that can do it? And it's not that I care. It's just like, if we had gasoline and you could only buy gasoline from BP and Exxon, like, what happens to the Shells and to all the other ones, the AMPMs and the Circle Ks, whatever, like, what happens with that? So I'm really afraid in that aspect, because I can't keep raising my prices and keep paying my guys really well if they keep raising their prices like that. Again,
so I think it's going to come to a breaking point.
It has to. It has to, because right now a bucket of tablets is through the roof. A bucket of Cal Hypo is through the roof retail. It's $649 for 100 pounds of Cal Hypo. And that's cheaper than liquid chlorine pound for pound. So it's like, what do we do? And I just talked to my guy about that yesterday. He was like, I'm at this pool, the calcium's at 250. And I'm like, don't use liquid chlorine. I'm like, 3 pounds of Cal Hypo is way cheaper than three gallons of liquid chlorine. Put it in the Cal Hypo. I know sometimes it makes it go white for a little bit, but brush it and keep, just Jesus. So I just have a huge problem with that. And it's not that I have an issue with Hasa at all. It's just, I like competition in a sense of, the more people that are out there, the cheaper it makes it. And honestly, there's nobody out there. They're just this Goliath that they just keep swallowing companies. I want to start making liquid chlorine, because then maybe they come by me. And then Steve doesn't have to work.
There you go.
I mean, that's like the, I don't know what else to do, because it's like, every time I go to the distributor, there's a new notice of this company is doing it, this company is doing it. And like, I raised my prices once since 2015. So maybe I'm the asshole, Wayne, like, maybe I'm the one, maybe, no, I don't know. And this is just
that's your point. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, maybe I need to start doing increases every year. Is what it comes down to, because when you do look at this stuff, there are people everyone is raising their prices every year. Like, you don't go to 7-Eleven and the Coca-Cola or the Pepsi is the same. The price is going to go up, Right. So if price and you think that they're just raising their prices because they're distributor, you think, no, Coca-Cola is raising their prices. But again, my point is, Coca-Cola isn't the only one making soda.
Right.
And I kind of feel like there's that one other company out there, Abcana, but I've used their stuff before, and it's not 12%. I know that, and then also, like, how do you get into distribution 2 different types of cyanuric acid and one doesn't work?
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like, and I figured this out on my own, and then you go on the forums on Facebook and you look up the red bucket. And people are like, I've been, dumping in 10 pounds at a time, and it's only been putting it up like 10 parts per million. So, I've never used the liquid, the liquid cyanuric acid stuff before. But with that, I also think that something needs to change too, because again, Haas is the only one selling the good stuff.
Yeah. So there are bright spots and there are not so bright spots. I guess the only way that we can deal with it is to try to be as aware as we can of things like, major price increases, independent distribution for your area versus, a big box, not big box, but what I mean, multi-branch location. And it's going to be tough. It's not going to be simple, but it's pretty much like everything in life. You just have to be aware, and you have to be savvy, and you have to be smart. And you got to know what you want and how it is you're going to get there. And unfortunately, not everybody knows that and can do that. But for those that can, they're going to win in this situation down the road. And that's one of the reasons why we have Talking Pools podcast, to talk about things like this, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So what we'd like to do, as we always do, is want to hear from you guys. Comments, suggestions, thoughts, whatever. Talkingpools@gmail.com is the way to get a hold of us. Any of us that broadcast to them. We'll be more than happy to take a look at your comments, and if we include them in a podcast, we'll send you a little thank you gift, as we always do. And if not, Mr. Steve, you guys have fun out there on the west side of the country, where it's like 11 o'clock in the morning or something ridiculous, and you haven't even eaten lunch yet, and it's almost 2:30 here. So
yeah, no, it's okay. I love it. Yeah,
I know.
I do intermittent fasting, so I haven't even eaten my first meal yet.
The sun rises in the ocean where I live and doesn't set on the ocean. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, all right, but I mean, I had a great time on this episode, and I love talking trends and stuff like that. It's just there's a lot of changes in the industry, and I think that we just need to pay more attention in that sense, because I think that the last couple of years we've kind of there has been no pushback with anybody raising their prices and saying like, why have your and everybody says raw materials or whatever, but it's like most of these companies have moved to China or to Mexico or to somewhere that's not in the United States.
That's right.
I know what you make your heaters for. It's not $3,000. It's not $3,000. It's not even $500 sometimes. So you know what I mean? Like, once you kind of know something like that, it's kind of like you guys got some balls, going up 12%, because like nothing went up 12%.
Let us know how it works out for you.
Right, exactly. But again, there are some guys out there like Rudy. Rudy Stankiewicz, obviously, he has the Talking Pools Network. He does a great little thing once a year usually, and kind of says like, hey, like these are the increases that have happened over the year. And a lot of people will write like letters and stuff, and they'll share it on Facebook in those Facebook groups. So you can kind of take that letter and kind of make it your own. And now you can say, you're not just saying, hey, we're raising our prices 10%. We're saying we're raising our prices 10% because our manufacturers and distributors raised their prices, 13% in the last 8 months. So let's just be a little bit more aware out there, and let's all be a little bit more helpful. And like I said, if you just do good business and you do what you say you're going to do, you'll be able to survive and you'll be able to stick around. And if you stick with it, you'll be able to thrive.
Absolutely. Good parting words, Stephen. So, gang, we will talk at you next Thursday. Please be safe out there. Don't waste too much chlorine. I think that's the bottom line statement for today. If not, guys, thank you so much, and we'll be talking at you later. Take care. Bye-bye.